There's a lot more to Paris than just the Eiffel Tower. And in this video, I'll be sharing a thorough roundup of things to do in the City of Light, separated by neighborhood, of course, for ease of exploration. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com. And this channel is all about practical travel advice. So be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. And be sure to stick around until the end for a map that includes all the activities mentioned in this video, alongside food and drink recommendations. Now, before we get into a big list of sites broken down by area, there are two activities I think every visitor needs to do. The first is a long walk along the Seine. This is my favorite free thing to do in Paris, and it's something I have to squeeze into every trip. The Seine is a river that flows through the heart of Paris, with many of the city's most famous monuments built right along its scenic banks. On a single walk here, you'll get to see architectural knockouts like the Notre Dame, the Louvre, Pont Alexandre, and even the Eiffel Tower, among many other impressive monuments. It's also a go-to spot for picnics and hangouts, so it's a great place for people watching as well. Schedule your walk for sunset, and I promise you'll fall in love. On a similar note, while Paris has many touristy activities, one that I think is definitely worthwhile is a Seine river cruise. This is one of the best ways to enjoy Paris's most famous landmarks all in one go. Much better than a bus tour, which is prone to traffic. Luckily, there are loads of cruises to choose from affordable and basic to more extravagant affairs featuring multi-course meals. No matter how you do it though, I can highly recommend a sightseeing cruise if it's your first time in Paris. Now, let's break down the main sites and must-dos by approximate area, starting with things to do in the first 4 arrondissements, or arrondissements. We'll start with a big one, and that's to visit the Louvre, also known as the world's largest museum. Housed, of course, in a former royal palace, this massive museum is home to over 35,000 works of art, including ultra-famous pieces like the Venus de Milo and the Mona Lisa, which, as many guides will advise, is often considered one of the most disappointing tourist attractions in the world. Still, it's a very beautiful and impressive museum that's well worth visiting if you're an art lover and have a few hours to spare. Though I should stress, it does get busy here, so come at off-peak periods and don't force yourself to go unless you're very interested in art, because this place can be very overwhelming. It's worth noting at this point that the Louvre is only one of many, many museums in Paris, so really don't force yourself to visit just because it's the most famous. On this side of the river, there's plenty more options, like the Centre Pompidou, which is Europe's largest modern art museum, the National Picasso Museum, not to mention plenty more choices around the city, like the Musée d'Orsay across the river, which contains the largest collection of Impressionist and Post-Impressionist masterpieces in the world, all housed, of course, in a magnificent Beaux-Arts railway station. So be sure to choose an option that speaks to your personal interests. Another must-see nearby are the elegant Jardin des Tuileries, picturesque gardens full of meticulously manicured lawns, statues, and fountains. One special highlight worth seeing in the gardens is the Musée de l'Orangerie, where you can marvel at Monet's water lilies displayed in 2 oval-shaped rooms specially designed to immerse visitors in his famous masterpieces. A short walk from here, you'll find the beautiful Palais Royal, an elegant 17th century palace surrounded by arcades, manicured gardens, and the now very famous Colonne de Biron art installation, which makes for great photos and great skipping opportunities. While in this area, you're close to a very underrated Paris activity that I love to recommend, which is a wander through the city's enchanting covered passages, or passages couverts, which were popular shopping venues in the 18th and 19th centuries, usually with glass rooftops and elaborate embellishments. Today, there's about 20 of these passages that remain for your nosy perusal, though some are definitely more elaborate than the rest. My personal favorites are probably Galerie Vivienne, Galerie Véro-Daudat, Passage des Panoramas, and Passage du Froid. But honestly, it's super fun to just wander and snoop around the ones you see. Another street worth checking out close to these passages is the famous Rue Montorgueil, a beautiful pedestrianized street in the heart of Paris, known for its vibrant market atmosphere, and gourmet delights, namely special food shops, cheesemongers, and bakeries, including the oldest patisserie in Paris, La Maison Storaire. If you plan on doing a picnic while you're in town, which I highly recommend, this could be a fun place to grab all your ingredients. Next on our list is to explore the Marais, a historically well-to-do neighborhood filled with a number of beautiful mansions, art galleries, and medieval streets that feel like a step back in time. Some highlights of a visit here include Place des Vosges, the oldest planned square in Paris, which is also home to Victor Hugo's house, now a popular museum, as well as Paris's oldest museum, Musée Carnavalet, dedicated to the history of the city. On the outskirts of the Marais is the Hôtel de Ville, Paris's magnificent city hall, known for its intricately decorated facade, adorned with sculptures, carvings, and ornate design. Now, from here, you can continue your explorations around the city with a visit to Île de la Cité, an island in the middle of the Seine River that is often considered the birthplace of Paris, since it was here over 2,000 years ago that a Celtic tribe called the Parisian first established a settlement. Needless to say, this island is home to a number of iconic sites, highlights of which include the famous Notre Dame Cathedral, known for its awe-inspiring Gothic design and lengthy history of over 800 years, but there's also Sainte-Chapelle, another gorgeous Gothic chapel known for its intricate stained glass windows, as well as the Conciergerie, which is a gorgeous palace turned prison, best known for being where Marie Antoinette was held before her execution, and Pont Neuf, a stone bridge that is actually the oldest in the city. Needless to say, there are many beautiful sights all around this compact island, so a walk around is a must. Once again, I've saved all my favorite spots in my special Paris map, which you can find in the written version of this guide. To make the most of it though, you should make sure you have internet access during your trip. On that note, this week's video is sponsored by Airlo, my go-to eSIM provider that provides instant and affordable connectivity for over 200 countries and regions, including France, of course, which means you'd have access to my map as soon as you arrive. If you've never used one, eSIM stands for Embedded SIM, which means it's pre-installed on your device and works 100% digitally to connect you with your telecom provider's network. So you'll have data access as soon as you land without the need to switch your SIM card in and out. They even have regional SIMs that work across multiple countries, which is what I got for my recent Europe trip. And it was super easy. I just used the Airlo app to buy and activate the eSIM while waiting to board my flight, and it was ready to go as soon as I landed. Again, for a fraction of the cost of roaming. So if you need a full tutorial for setup, you can check out my complete Airlo guide for step-by-step instructions. And scan this QR code to easily download the app, using this code here to save $3 off your next eSIM. Thanks again to Airlo for sponsoring this week's video. Now let's move across the river with things to do in arrondissements 5 to 7. First is a visit to the iconic English bookshop, Shakespeare & Co., one of the best-known literary institutions in the world, located right by the Seine. This legendary bookshop is best known for its prominence as a hangout spot for lost generation writers like Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald, as well as thousands of other guests who have slept in its cozy confines over the years in exchange for reading a book a day, helping at the shop for a few hours, and writing a short, one-page autobiography for the bookstore archives. Known as Tumbleweeds, it's said that the shop has hosted over 30,000 guests in this fashion, a practice that continues even today. 5 minutes away, there's another far quieter English language bookshop that's worth checking out, the Abbey Bookshop, which happens to be Canadian and oh so cozy. Another must-do on this side of the river is, of course, a wander through the Latin Quarter, or the Quartier Latin. This historic student district is one of the oldest in the city, best known for its narrow cobblestone streets, lively cafes, and vibrant atmosphere, with a name, of course, that references the prominence of Latin as a spoken language here back in the Middle Ages. There are a lot of highlights to enjoy in the Latin Quarter, the most famous of which is no doubt the Pantheon, a neoclassical mausoleum that is absolutely breathtaking on the inside. Completed in 1790 and originally intended to be a church, today the Pantheon is best known for the many iconic French figures who are interred here, like Marie Curie, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Victor Hugo. Other highlights include the beautiful Saint-Michel fountain, as well as the Sorbonne building, and of course, there's quite a few nice museums here as well, including the Musée Cluny, one of the world's most extensive collections of medieval art and artifacts, as well as the Museum of Natural History, housed in the beautiful Jardin des Plantes. While in this area, history nerds can also check out the Arène de Lutèce, an ancient amphitheater dating back to the 1st century. Or, for something a bit more offbeat to do in Paris, you can head to the Grande Mosquée de Paris, a stunning architectural masterpiece inspired by Moorish design, filled with intricate tile work, lush gardens, and serene courtyards. In terms of iconic parks, this part of Paris has another beautiful option for picnics and general strolling: the incredible Luxembourg Gardens, a verdant oasis in the heart of Paris, with tree and flower-lined paths, a big pond where visitors play with toy sailboats, and the elegant Luxembourg Palace, which today is home to the French Senate. Another historic neighborhood to explore just north of here is the gorgeous Quartier Saint-Germain-des-Prés, renowned for its literary cafes, galleries, and plenty of shopping opportunities. Granted, these days Café de Flore and Café Les Deux Magots are more tourist hubs than rogue meeting places for haunted creatives, but they are pretty, just like the rest of the neighborhood, with key highlights like Église Saint-Sulpice ready for your nosy perusal. Honestly, the best way to enjoy this neighborhood, like with many others, is to just soak up the atmosphere while dreamily walking around. Now, if you spent a comically disproportionate amount of time learning about Napoleon in history class, another interesting attraction in Paris is his tomb, which is, fittingly, disproportionately large. You can find this grandiose sarcophagus in the iconic gold-topped Dôme des Invalides, which was actually the tallest structure in Paris before the Eiffel Tower turned up. On that note, of course, a highlight of the 7th arrondissement is the most famous symbol of Paris, the Eiffel Tower. At the time of its construction for the 1889 World's Fair in Paris, it was actually the tallest man-made structure in the world, a title it held until 1930 when it was dethroned by the Chrysler Building. While considered by many to be an eyesore initially, there's no doubt that the Eiffel Tower today is synonymous with Paris, so you definitely have to see it. If you're short on time, I'd say there's no need to pay and wait in line to go up the tower. After all, the most iconic views of Paris contain the Eiffel Tower in them, which makes the views up there feel weirdly incomplete. Instead, remember you can get great Eiffel Tower views from tons of different areas, the most popular being from Trocadero or Champ de Mars, but with plenty of side streets and bridges offering unique vantage points as well with a fraction of the crowds. So don't be afraid to explore and branch out. A classic view can be found on the Line 6 metro, between the Passy and Bir Hakeim stations. Now it's time to move on to things to do in arrondissements 8 and 9. We'll start with the classic Arc de Triomphe, a monumental triumphal arch that commemorates France's military victories. This is probably one of the most famous sites in the entire city, at least as far as photo ops are concerned. And while almost everyone comes here for a photo, far fewer actually make the visit up to the top, which I think is a shame because the views are truly stunning. Just be warned that there is a tunnel that takes you over to the arch and you're not meant to sprint across the roundabout, as you'll see many tourists doing. From here, you can enjoy a walk along one of Paris's most famous boulevards, the Champs-Élysées, forever immortalized in a classic song of the same name. To be honest, this isn't the best street to shop or eat in Paris, with many tourist traps along the way. But it is still an iconic stop, and worth doing if you continue your walk till the end, which is when you'll reach one of the largest public squares in Paris, Place de la Concorde. With a golden Egyptian obelisk as its centerpiece, and 2 dreamy decorative fountains, this is a beautiful square well worth seeing. Not so beautiful, however, is its history. This square was famously the execution site of many notable figures during the French Revolution, including Marie Antoinette, though today it's mainly just a nice spot for photos. From here, you're about a 15-minute walk away from one of the most beautiful attractions in Paris, the Palais Garnier, also known as the Paris Opera House, and yes, the real-life lair of the Phantom of the Opera. This legendary opera house is a masterpiece of 19th century architecture, And while the grandiose facade is nice to look at, you really do need to step inside for the full impact, with its magnificent grand staircase, dazzling chandeliers, and sumptuous gilded decor all around. Even if you can't experience a live show in this cultural landmark, I can highly recommend booking a ticket to see the inside, because it's honestly stunning. Close by, you'll also find some of Paris's most luxurious department stores, Galeries Lafayette and Printemps. Even if you're not a fan of designer shopping, a visit to these two is worth it, if even just to admire their ornate Belle Époque interiors and glorious rooftop views. Finally, let's move on to more things to do in Paris outside of these central arrondissements. There are, of course, so many, but I'll just highlight some of my favorites. First, I'd say every visitor needs to visit Montmartre. Once a village filled with artists, today a neighborhood filled with tourists. That said, touristy as it may be these days, it's still one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in Paris. Highlights include the iconic Sacré-Cœur Basilica with its striking white domes and panoramic views, artist-filled Place du Tertre, the adorable Wall of I Love Yous, and of course, the famous Moulin Rouge. Honestly though, the best thing to do here is to just explore and wander around. While it does get intensely busy, there are still some cool sights and side streets to take in where you can actually escape the crowds, especially if you come early. I'm talking sunrise early, but it honestly is so worth it. Next, just north of the 18th, you'll find the delightful Marché aux Puces de Saint-Ouen. Known as one of the largest and oldest flea markets in the world, here visitors can browse through eclectic stalls selling everything from retro clothing and antique furniture to quirky collectibles and unique souvenirs. Definitely a really cool spot to check out. Out in the 10th, there's another great area worth exploring, Canal Saint-Martin. This picturesque waterway is lined with fun cafes, shops, and restaurants, making it a go-to spot for locals and tourists alike to enjoy an afternoon or evening. If you're looking for a lively place to hang out in Paris with a chiller vibe than the tourist center, this is a great pick. Close to here, you'll also find one of Paris's most famous squares, Place de la Bastille, built on the site of the former prison of the same name, whose historic storming played a key role in the early days of the French Revolution. Today, there's not much to do here apart from admire the Colonne de Juillet monument, but it may still be of interest for history buffs. Over in the 11th, you'll also find the Atelier des Lumières, a super cool exhibition space known for their immersive multimedia installations, housed in a former steel foundry, of course, for optimal cool points. Today, it's home to floor-to-ceiling projections that bring iconic artworks to life with music and dynamic animations. I went to one about Van Gogh and it was honestly amazing. Now, out in the 14th, you'll find the world's most famous ossuary, the Catacombs of Paris, a spooky attraction perfect for those who are looking for low-key creepy things to do. This macabre underground labyrinth is said to contain the bones of about 6 million Parisians, a spooky solution for the increasingly overcrowded cemeteries of the late 18th century. Today, a small portion of these tunnels are open to the public, allowing you to frolic among a sea of skulls and bones, if that's your kind of thing. Now, sticking out like a dark sore thumb in Paris's 15th arrondissement is the Tour Montparnasse, a tower often referred to as the ugliest building in Paris. This tower is actually Paris's tallest skyscraper, and therefore offers sweeping views of the city's iconic landmarks and skyline, though to be honest, there's tons of great views around the city, so I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to come here. In terms of beautiful parks though, one of my favorites in Paris can be found in the 19th, the Parc des Buttes-Chaumont, a whimsical parkland featuring dramatic cliffs, cascading waterfalls, and picturesque bridges. Definitely a great place to escape the tourist masses for an afternoon. Finally, out in the 20th is the historic Père Lachaise Cemetery, the final resting place of countless notable figures from the worlds of art, literature, and politics, including Oscar Wilde, Jim Morrison, and Edith Piaf. Sure, visiting a cemetery seems like a strange thing to do, but if you have the time, this is definitely a peaceful and beautiful corner of the city to put on your list. Now, speaking of lists, for a full list with way more recommendations, as well as a map with all these activities, be sure to check out the written version of this guide. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!